Welcome back. Former President Trump's legal team and Justice Department lawyers meeting with the special master in charge of reviewing records from the FBI's raid on Mar-a-Lago. Judge Raymond Deary says that there's little time to review and is telling Trump's attorneys that they need to prove whether the documents in question were in fact declassified. Trump's team suggesting the judge is going beyond his duties as special counsel. Joining me right now is former acting U.S. Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matt, great to see you. Give us your reaction to this developing.
Well, there's a lot of road still left to go, and by Friday, both the teams need to agree to a service provider to manage the digital documents, because ultimately they need to put them in 4 different baskets, privileged or not privileged, in personal or presidential records. And so while that is the main project of these 10,000 documents, obviously the classification issues are what's the biggest, Maria. And this case is really going to boil down to whether or not the classification matters. And the Trump team argued yesterday that classification doesn't matter. What matters is whether it's personal or presidential, and that should be the process they follow. So it's going to be very interesting, and obviously you have the pending 11th Circuit Court of Appeals appeal by the DOJ as well that could change the whole process as we head into the following weeks.
Will we ever know what these documents are? I mean, are these documents related to the Russia collusion lie?
Well, Maria, I mean, I think that was the point of the Trump team. Is Judge, you're telling us as the special master that we need to say how or if these documents were declassified. They don't even know what these documents are. I mean, they haven't seen a listing of specifically what these these documents and the classification of these documents are. So
why haven't we seen a list of what was taken?
Well, we've seen a much more detailed list of what was taken, but as it relates to the classified documents or the allegedly classified documents, the government's been very vague as to what are those documents, and then obviously there's at least 2 categories that we know Trump declassified while president, and I'm sure there are more. One is the Hillary Clinton email server documents, and the second is the Russian collusion hoax documents. So, I think there's still a lot left to play out here.
Let me switch gears, ask you about this San Antonio area sheriff opening a criminal investigation into Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for flying the migrants to Martha's Vineyard last week. He's now facing a class action lawsuit from some of those same migrants. However, DeSantis says they all signed the consent form before leaving. And just to underline this, okay, you've got migrants who came from Venezuela, and they were sent to Martha's Vineyard, and now they're suing.
Yeah. Well, it's extraordinary, but there's no Federal Trade Commission disclosure requirements as to when you're sending illegal immigrants from Florida to Martha's Vineyard. So that's the starting point. I think this just seems like an opportunity for a lawyer to get some headlines by filing this class action lawsuit. It's not going anywhere. These people obviously consented and agreed to this trip, and they're just, again, this is a smaller battle in a much broader war, which is, as you report almost every day, the porous border that is allowing millions of people into our country, really destabilizing our country and putting a tremendous burden on states like Texas and Florida, that are not, those burdens aren't borne by, the blue states that actually support those open border policies.
Matt, this question of the treatment of the migrants, I mean, it seems since they were sent to perhaps the most coveted, expensive real estate in the country, or certainly among the ones in that category, it seems like until the people of Martha's Vineyard decided they couldn't tolerate them and moved them off the island, this was essentially a lottery ticket that DeSantis had given them, right? I mean, can you imagine a place with more free bedrooms and more wealth than Martha's Vineyard?
Right, and it's a self-declared sanctuary city that, did anything but offer sanctuary. They couldn't get rid of these folks fast enough once they arrived, and it was under the guise of, not having the infrastructure to provide social services. But what do they think these small border towns in Texas have? They don't have the infrastructure to handle these tens of thousands and, increasingly more and more immigrants. And so, I think it highlights the hypocrisy, but the left is always hypocritical and never seems to be self-evaluate how their policies, while applied to sort of most of America, hurt so much.
Well, it's just incredible. And Brian, I want to get your take on this. I mean, I just have to underline it. These migrants came from Venezuela. They were sent to Martha's Vineyard, and now they're suing. But we got to get on to this. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee voting down the Republicans' request for documents related to Hunter Biden's foreign business deals. Kentucky Congressman James Comer is the top Republican on the panel, and he is telling Fox News that he has evidence proving Hunter Biden sold American natural gas to a Chinese energy company. We're selling oil from our strategic reserve to a Chinese company. Why? What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, we've also depleted. I mean, the strategic oil reserve, is supposed to be for the United States and our strategic interests, and obviously selling it to the Chinese is not in our national security interest. But, the Hunter Biden laptop and everything surrounding Hunter Biden demands at least a special counsel. But most importantly, it demands an investigation. And the fact that they can, with lightning speed, do this, Donald Trump classified document investigation. And at the same time, you've had this Hunter Biden investigation going on since 2019 with really no overt, movement from the prosecutor. Just demonstrates, I think, the two-tiered system of justice where, they are determined to get Donald Trump, but they just seem to have no interest in going after Hunter Biden for all of his illegality.
I mean, this is really a dangerous situation that we're in, Brian.
Well, and Matt, timing matters here. I mean, if these are national security issues, you don't get to wait 6 months or a year to uncover what's happening. Joe Biden is the president now. Hunter is his son now. If there are any kind of covering type things happening, they matter right now, Matt, don't they?
Yeah, and they mattered leading into the 2020 election when, social media spiked the story in the first place. This is the hardest thing for me to explain to my fellow citizens as I travel around the country is why Hunter Biden is being treated so differently. And the only answer and the only reasonable explanation is that the Department of Justice is treating him with kid gloves and are just unwilling to prosecute him for, again, we have photographs of federal crimes being committed. This is not, a close case.
Yep. All right, we'll leave it there. Matt, more to come. Thanks very much for weighing in.
Thank you both.
Matt Whitaker joining us.